thrilled to be able to kick off the week with an old friend of the show, and the first time we've been able to talk with him since he's been installed as the new spokesperson for the Department of Defense. We knew he was going. We talked to him when he got the job. We haven't talked to him since he's been on the job. He's Sean Parnell. Mr. Parnell, it is a thrill to have you back. Good morning, sir.
Hey, it's great to be here, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Are you there at the digs, the new office digs of the Pentagon? Is that where you are?
Yeah, the Pentagon briefing room is like 20 feet that way. So yeah, I'm here. I'm in a suit. This is one of our other studios that we have here. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. They do a great job here.
How's the job been? How's it gone? Has it gone as you thought it would, or what have you learned in the short time you've been there so far?
There's always something going on in the world. That's what I've learned. This job is extraordinary in so many ways. It's also a huge job. You know, speaking on behalf of the Department of Defense, force-wide, all branches, to the American people, to Congress, to the intelligence community, and level setting all of that, making sure things are clear and concise. And then, you know, we also manage all of the community engagement. So all the NFL Salute the Service, NASCAR stuff, forward-leaning community type stuff here at the DoD, we do. And then you've got the operational stuff, the acquisitions. I mean, it's just a huge building and a huge job, but it's an honor to be here and to be a small part of this organization.
Well, and nobody's better at it, in my opinion, than you. You're the right kid to be the spokesperson. May I ask you briefly about the media generally? I know when you got there, one of the things was some folks who traditionally like to have that front row seat, front row center, and your ear as the spokesperson for the Defense Department were told, thank you. We're going to bring in some new entities to cover the Pentagon. And that didn't go over well with some of them. How has the media been in interacting with them?
You know, I've had a couple of engagements with the media thus far. You know, I've been on the job for almost 6 weeks now. And, you know, I did a group off the record meeting with them. And unfortunately, somebody in that meeting leaked the contents of that meeting. And then I did another briefing, and I've had a couple of off the records, but it's not been easy, you know.
So they're as bad as we thought they were. I mean, are they as underhanded and deceptive as we've thought them to be, now that you've seen them firsthand this way?
The Pentagon press corps is a little bit different, Chris. I mean, they are a little bit better, I think, than the vast majority of the political press in this town. There are lots of people in this briefing room that are legitimately concerned with technology, acquisitions, national security, foreign policy. And then there are some of the folks in the room that just want to ask political questions to undermine the administration. So you get all types in here. But it's the tough part about the job is that, you know, we're communicating about very, very serious life and death things here. So there is a political aspect to this job, and there will be times where you have to address something political or put somebody in their place from the podium. But the vast majority of the time, we're talking about things that can be life and death for our troops. And so, you know, for me, at least anyway, having been in those situations before, I try to keep politics out of those discussions and make sure that we're doing right by our troops, because that's the charge that we were given by this president and by the secretary, to make sure that we give the Department of Defense back, so to speak, to our warfighters and make sure they're empowered to do what they need to do.
Sean Parnell is the chief spokesperson for the Department of Defense, joins us this morning. And last week, big news, Secretary Hegseth sat down with Panama, and they have agreed on a joint declaration allowing U.S. warships and auxiliary ships to proceed first and free through the canal. What does that mean exactly? What should we understand about that as Americans?
It means that if in a crisis, you know, you go down to Panama, I mean, there's a long line of ships waiting to go through the canal, right? It's kind of an unbelievable thing to behold, but it basically gives us right of first refusal and access to the canal in times of crisis, and that we will have free passage. And by the way, I worked and helped negotiate those deals with Defense Minister Abrego and President Molino down there. Over a day's worth of negotiations. And, you know, ultimately, the Panama Canal is key terrain, not just in our Western Hemisphere, but in all over the world. It's right in our backyard. And the Chinese have had an ever-growing influence there, malign influence in Panama. I mean, honestly, Chris, they are. It is troubling to me. I will just say, going back the span of 20 years, both Republicans and Democrats in office, how we've gotten to this point with the CCP influence, not just in Panama, but also in and around the Philippines, in and around Japan. That has been the topic of conversation with many of the foreign leaders that we've met thus far, is the rising tide of the CCP, and it's down in Panama as well. But I was super excited, that trip, 2-day trip down to Panama, 2 historic agreements, a memorandum of understanding that would establish a troop rotation in and out of Panama, might reestablish the jungle warfare score at Fort Sherman, tons of joint training with the Panamanian military, but also this joint declaration, first and free. It was an America First priority given to the Department of Defense, given to this secretary by President Trump, and we got it done. So hopefully this is just the beginning of what will be many different conversations with the Panamanians, but we're off to a good start.
Sean, you mentioned China. Secretary Hegseth said over the weekend we've been sort of asleep at the wheel on China as a country, broadly, not this administration. You're dialed in on it now. I heard it explained when Biden was still supposedly at the helm that we were not, we at the time, Sean, did not have the military readiness to deal with China should they get uppity on, say, Taiwan. Where is our readiness today? I know our ranks have increased dramatically under this administration's leadership. Are we ready yet for something like that? Heaven forbid.
Boy, that's a big question. I'll tell you, I felt a lot worse about our prospects against the CCP prior to taking this job. Now, having been in on some of the briefings and especially talking with Indo-Pacific Commander Admiral Paparo, the guy's a freaking genius. He understands that area of operations very, very well. He understands the threat of the CCP very, very well. And I'll tell you that I feel, I mean, look, we don't want conflict with China. And I'll tell you, President Trump is working diplomatically with President Xi. They've got a great relationship here at the Department of Defense. We would never put ourselves in a position to undermine that. Ultimately, our goal is peace. But we are also ready. We are also ready, and no one longs for a conflict with China. That would be horrible. That would be devastating. It would be terrible. We're doing everything that we can to avoid that. But our military leaders, the leaders that we have in place here at the Department of Defense, from Admiral Paparo on down in Indo-Pacific, are fantastic, and we have a lot of confidence in them to get the job done.
I never want to be hysterical about this stuff, Sean, with just a couple of minutes. But just out of curiosity, as we talk about this tariff stuff, and China seems to be increasingly a little more desperate. We know they're on a short leash to begin with economically. They don't have a lot of wiggle room here, and they're up against it. I've just wondered to myself aloud, this is just me wondering as a guy, do you guys talk about this at the Defense Department? What if China does something out of just sheer desperation because of their economic situation? Is that something you have to consider, or no?
Of course. Our job is to plan for every single contingency and be ready for anything that's thrown at us all the time. We have people who work in this building that do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so we are laser focused on that mission, Chris. We're laser focused on some of the threats that are rising all over the world. And again, our goal and the ultimate end state is to pursue policies that guide us to peace. And I think that's what we're doing. I mean, ultimately, Chris, the reason why I'm doing this, and I know that it's the same for the Secretary of Defense, we've got young kids, and we want to make sure that they inherit a country, but also a world that's free, safe, and rich with opportunity. And we do that now by leading in critical moments like this, rising to the occasion in the pursuit of peace through strength. And that's exactly what we're doing, Chris. I'm super optimistic about it. I mean, the world is an imperfect place. Oftentimes these diplomatic negotiations with other countries and even some adversaries, it's imperfect, it's nuanced, it's tough, but we're going to get the job done, and we're going to do it right.
I hate to shove 30-second answer into something this complicated, but U.S. and Iran negotiations, where are things with Iran? If you can do it in 30. I don't know that you can, but how do you think
I can do it in 30.
Out?
Here's what I'll tell you.
Okay.
The president is the best negotiator in the world, and if anybody can get that done and keep a nuclear weapon out of the hands of the Iranians, it's President Trump. You've seen what he's done with Ukraine, with Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. I think we've got, hopefully, seems like we've got an end state there. The president is relentless in his pursuit of peace there, and I think he's if anybody can get it done, it's President Trump. Let's just say that in the 30 seconds that we have.
Sean, we are thrilled to have you, sincerely. I'm so glad to see you at the Post. We always like to see you at the podium. We know that the official spokesperson of the Defense Department's a tough job, but if anybody can hack it, you can. Thank you, my man.
Yep, thanks, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.